minute break before we get started? Are they good? You guys good?
They're too excited. The
Okay,
suspense. They want to know how to negotiate.
awesome. Okay, sounds good. So good morning, everybody. Essentially, we're going to be talking about negotiations and what the best practices are. This is going to be a completely interactive session. We're going to have an opportunity at the end of the class for open discussion. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever, please ask the questions by putting them in the chat box, and I'll respond to them during our open discussion time. Sound good? Good, thumbs up? Yeah. Okay, so first, I like to begin with the game. Games are always fun, right? So I need 2 volunteers. Can I get 2 volunteers? Don't be shy, it's an easy game and it's fun, I promise.
I'll just pick on them. Don and Michelle.
Don and Michelle? All right, you are my players. So Don and Michelle, are you familiar with the game Tic-Tac-Toe?
Yep.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So for those of you who might not be familiar with the game Tic-Tac-Toe, what it is in a nutshell is the first person to get either 3 X's or 3 O's in a row wins, right? We are going to be playing something a little bit similar to Tic-Tac-Toe. We're going to have a similar board, only it's going to be 4 X's or 4 O's in a row. And we are going to be playing until we can completely fill up the board. So not just for the first time you get 4 X's or 4 O's in a row, it's gonna be we're playing until we fill up this board. Does that sound good?
Yep.
Okay, so Michelle and Don, Michelle, you'll be heads, Don, you're gonna be tails. I'm gonna flip a coin to see who's going to go first. And I actually wanna share my screen. So we are going to share it right here. Can everybody see this?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so you guys will tell me which cell you would like me to place your X or O. So again, Michelle X, Michelle's heads, Don is O's. Let's see who goes first. Okay, so it is tails. So Don, you are going to be X's, okay? And you are going first.
Yeah.
So let me know which cell you would
let's
like to
go.
place it in.
How about the top right-hand corner?
Okay. So right here?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, Michelle.
I'm gonna go bottom left-hand corner.
Okay.
I'll go top left-hand corner.
Okay.
I'm gonna go top second to the left.
So right here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm going to go row 3 and the third one.
Right here?
So right there, yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
I'm gonna go row 4 to the bottom right.
There.
I'm gonna go row 4, the third one. I'm sorry, I'm at the very last row, the third one.
So the third right here?
So go down one and then to the left.
Right here. Oh, great. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I am going to go second row, third one over.
Right here?
Yep.
I'm going to go third row, first one.
All right.
That's not the one you wanted, is it?
Is that? Oh, I'm sorry. I meant so if you go to row 3.
Oh, okay.
And then
Right here?
first one. Yeah, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, thanks.
I'm gonna go one over from him and
I'm gonna go row 4 and the last one.
Row 4 right here?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna go first, second row down, first one.
Okay,
I'm gonna go second row down, second one.
I'm gonna go second row, the last one.
okay,
I'm gonna go third row, last one.
And I'll take the last spot.
okay. What happened, guys?
We're tied.
It's a cat's game. Did anybody win whatsoever?
Nope.
No. What were the rules of the game?
Todd got to go first and we just kept picking spots or just to fill the board in.
Mhm.
Yeah, you had to get 4 X's and or 4 O's in a row, right?
Yep.
Until we filled up the board.
Mhm.
So did I ever say that you two were competing against each other?
Nah.
Nah, I
No.
see what you did.
Mhm. So we are taught, as a society, we are constantly taught like it's a win-lose situation, right? One of us
Yep.
has to always compete. We always have to win. But in a true negotiation, it's always going to be a win-win situation where both of you could have won. Both of you could have won 2 rows each, right?
Yeah.
And it could have been a win-win. How did you feel about competing against the other person?
Well, it was nerve wracking because I got 70 people watching.
Yeah,
Right, exactly.
I think in our society we're just so accustomed to like opposition that it just kind of feels instinctive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. Was there a little bit of stress? I know you said, Michelle, it was a little bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah. I got called out.
Even on the simple game of tic-tac-toe, right? And it is
Right.
a little bit nerve-wracking. Did either of you feel like you had to win?
I didn't feel like I had to win, no, but I guess when I got called out, like my mind just went blank. So then I was like, wait, how do you
Mhm.
play tic-tac-toe? And then I wasn't even listening to what you were
Yeah,
saying.
same
So
here.
I wasn't focused on the
Right.
details, wasn't actively listening.
Right, exactly. And neither of you walked away with essentially a prize or anything like that, right?
Right.
Like this game, we're going to take a look at the possibilities of negotiation on our client's behalf to obtain results that could be beneficial to both sides of a transaction, right? We're going to explore some of the practical concepts based on Stephen Covey's principle of the win-win negotiating, and also his principle of seeking first to understand, then to be understood, right? Let me ask you guys this. Is it possible to approach negotiating in a real estate as a win-win event? Is that possible? Anyone?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so let's get started. Thank you guys. Thank you, Michelle and Don, for playing the game and humoring me on this, even though you were forced to play. So can everybody see my PowerPoint over here? Yes, thumbs up. Great, perfect, thank you. And most of you, as long as your background isn't noisy, you guys can unmute yourselves because like I said, this is gonna be a completely interactive session where I will be asking questions. And so I love to hear people talk and back and forth. So anyways, with that being said, I would love to talk about the art of negotiation. Let me pull up really quick. Okay, so let me ask you guys this. What is negotiation? What is it?
It's a give and take until both parties are either happy or walk away.
Okay, yeah, right?
A discussion, it's just communication.
Okay. Anybody else want to add to that?
Putting a deal together.
Okay. Yeah.
Communicating
with a
back and forth.
solution.
Oh, sorry.
Uh-huh.
I was going to say communicating back and forth with another party or parties to understand and come to a consensus where both people or both sides can walk away happy or fulfilled, rather.
Perfect. Okay.
It's overcoming obstacles and challenges.
Perfect. Can everybody see my screen, my shared screen? Perfect. Okay, thank you. Just wanted to make sure. So thank you guys. Yeah, you're all right. These are all overcoming challenges. These are negotiating to really find a common place, right? And what are some, just a really quick question, what are some things that you have negotiated for on your own personal behalf? It doesn't have to be real estate, it could be anything. What's something that you guys have negotiated for?
Ours.
Cars? Yep.
A third
Gallery.
baby. Sorry, a third baby.
A third baby? Hey, yeah,
Relationships.
absolutely. Yeah, relationships.
Where to go out to eat.
That's a big one, right? What do we
Getting my kids to do their laundry.
Yes.
What movie to watch?
Yeah. Okay. So realistically, we want to look at negotiations in a positive light. You know, we always want to have this positive attitude. So of course, Natalie Massenet, she says, always go into meetings or negotiations with a positive attitude. Tell yourself you're going to make this the best deal for all parties. Why would that be important?
Because if you walk in with a sense of that you're gonna fail or you don't have the confidence, then it's all gonna go askew.
For sure. Yeah, it definitely is. So again, just recapping essentially what you guys talked about, right? A negotiation is a strategic discussion. Then it resolves an issue in a way that both parties find acceptable. By negotiating, all involved parties try to avoid arguing, but agree to reach some form of compromise. It's the truth, right? We never want to try to argue because nobody wins when you argue, right? Negotiation involves some give and take, which means one party will always come out on top of the negotiation. People understandably aim to achieve the best possible outcome for their position. However, the principles of fairness, seeking mutual benefit, and maintaining a relationship are the keys to a successful outcome, right? So let me ask you guys this. Who does better in a negotiation? A warm person, warm and fuzzy, or a firm person?
A listener.
A listener,
Warm.
love that. Okay,
Warm person.
a warm
I
person.
would say both.
I'd say both.
Being warm but firm.
Okay,
The situation would the situation you're in, you might have to, be one or the other.
okay, right. Can you guys give me some examples of either warm or firm?
Well, a firm might be when you're going into a car dealership and you know your price that you want to pay for that car, because obviously you've researched it before you've even walked in the door most of the time now. So you know that that's the bottom line you want to pay. But a warm might be if you're in negotiations with your child to go upstairs and go to bed.
Perfect, okay. Anybody else want to add to that? Okay, can you be both?
Yeah.
Okay, how?
Well, I think Michelle kind of described it in a pretty good way. Sometimes, when you go in and you've got, if you're talking about negotiations and all different types of negotiations, when you go in and you're negotiating with someone who is, if let's say you have a seller who had this house and they want a certain price and they're firm on this price, you might have to go in there and be very firm with some statistics and some facts about this isn't the price you're going to be able to sell it for, and you got to be very, firm, opposed to, going into maybe more balanced market where where there's some room to move.
Nice, okay,
And I would say, again, it's the way you say it, saying it in a warm, positive way, but just being sincere and honest with the facts too. And, standing your ground, but being pleasant while you say it.
nice, okay. So let me ask you guys this. When somebody has approached you to negotiate, they want something, right? How do you feel or what happens when someone comes on very strong and demanding? What's your first impression and reaction to that?
I think you get very defensive.
Okay. How about what happens when somebody approaches you, you're selling something, and somebody approaches you and they come on really sweet and they're really kind and they're asking nicely for something. What's your first impression and reaction on that person?
You almost kind of want to give it to them.
Okay.
You're probably more willing to work with them or listen to them because you're not as defensive.
Okay.
You
Are they-
think they want to be fair. You think they want to be fair.
Okay. They want to play nicely. Okay.
People can take the niceness for weakness. So take advantage of the meekness.
Yeah. Like in a way that there may be a pushover. Okay. Yeah.
I feel like if it's over the top, it can come across as fake as well.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like if you come across too nice, you know, some people might think that there's something shady going on. Like, why is he so nice?
Yeah. Isn't that sad? We come to a society where like, they're shady. They're being too nice. It's the truth. So what's really interesting is there was a great study conducted by Harvard Business regarding whether or not nice during a negotiation can backfire. What they found was that being firm can often lead to better deals. However, we also know that it's important to be tactful and professional for a win-win outcome, right? So they did find where those people that were very nice, they ended up receiving a higher price or paying a higher price, I should say, than those that were very firm. Those that were very firm ended up receiving a lower price on the product. So that's kind of interesting, right? But we also know in our negotiation tactics that we need to be professional. We have to be tactful. Otherwise, the deal can just blow up altogether and nobody wins. So with that being said, there are 9 tips when negotiating a home. You know, first we want to be factual. We have to use data and we want to gather information. So what kind of data do we want to gather?
All of the facts.
Okay.
Comps.
Want to spend?
Okay. Chrissy says what's recently sold. Okay.
The motivation for the seller. That way we can kind of help them, you know, if they want like a longer closing date or they just want money, then you can kind of make it a win-win.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So adding on, you know, and just reiterating what some of you said, you know, we want to know what the current market value of the home is. So yes, we want to look at the comps. We want to know, like what Tim had said, how soon do they really need to move? What do they really want and need? Do the buyers need help with their closing costs? Because sometimes they'll ask for help with closing costs, but in reality, they have the cash, they don't necessarily need it. Do the sellers need to do a rent back? You know, if there are multiple offers, are the buyers willing and able to write above list price? Oftentimes in our multiple offer situation, buyers do write higher, but do they have the ability to back that up? And do they have the money to bring the difference to the closing table if it doesn't appraise? So we have to do a ton of research up front. You know, what can we do? We can call the seller or the buyer, whichever side is opposite your side, right? And ask what the party really wants and needs. We can also contact the lender. It doesn't matter if we're the listing agent, we still have the right to contact that lender and ask, are the buyers strong buyers? Are they actually pre-approved or were they simply pre-qualified, you know? So with that being said, we need to gather information. Next, we have to be clear and direct, right? We have to ask a lot of open-ended questions, and then we need to be clear and direct on what specifically we want. Next, we have to know when to walk away. So what would be a good question for your clients to help them realize and recognize at what point are they willing to walk away from this home and not regret it? It's exactly that question. So we need to know at what point are they willing to walk away and have that and stay firm with it, right? Next, we need to stay positive we need to do research, right? So research, which is, certain things that we did with gathering the information. And then we have to keep the emotions out of it. Why is it important to keep the emotions out of it?
Things get crazy when things get emotional.
Yeah, they really do.
And as their realtor, they often will feed off of our energy and our reaction towards things. So if we remain calm and cool and, steadfast about the process, then they will more than likely do the same.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Keep those emotions out of it. You have to filter and make sure that they are not feeding off of your own personal emotions. And if they start getting emotional, we need to be able to talk them down and talk them off the ledge, because this truly is a business transaction until they're able to move, right? Until this becomes their home. So next, we stay positive. Why is it important for us to stay positive?
If we don't stay positive, nobody will.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. So staying positive. What happens if we get discouraged or express negativity about the homes or situations?
It's hard to think clearly, and it's hard to just listen to the other person.
Absolutely. It's so difficult. You hit it right on the nail on the head, Carrie, where it's difficult to even absorb what the other person wants or needs or is saying, right?
Plus, we want referrals too in the future of being a positive person.
Yes, precisely, Paula. Yeah, that's exactly it. So next, we want to know, what's plan B? Do they have other options? What happens if they don't close on time or sell on time or find a house on time? Do they have a plan B? It's a good question to ask, right? We need to know. We also need to know the closing costs and express and tell them what to expect. And that's going to roll in also. The lender will be a big part of that with helping you. So the lender, knowing that, title company, it's important to get to know all of those. And then of course, lastly, what repairs are needed. So if you're reviewing the house and you're looking it over, it's important to know, is there financing? And if there is financing, are there specific lender required repairs that you can observe right up front that might be needed? Then thinking about who's going to pay for those repairs if those get flagged, right? Or if you just know that they will be flagged. Are the buyer and seller willing to negotiate after inspections? So biggest thing here is educating both sides right from the get-go, and then reminding them again, once you actually receive an offer, of what potential downfalls could happen during the inspection process and the appraisal process as far as potential repairs that will be needed, right? And doing this and educating and reminding them up front, that's going to really help you in the long run in order to keep the deal together instead of falling apart, and then putting those people back in the back seat to be able to tour homes again and find another one. So with that being said, let's figure out what's the process of negotiation, right? Preparation. Why is it important to prepare?
Don't want any surprises from the other side.
Yeah, right. We don't want surprises, right? Nobody does.
You'll be ready for anything. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Just preparation is being ready for whatever comes your way. Any kind of questions, any kind of objections, having everything written down, just having doing all your due diligence, just being prepared for whatever.
Absolutely.
It just helps you with your confidence, and your emotions are going to be steady because you've done the homework to be ready for the situation.
Yeah, right. You're the expert, right? We are the experts, and being prepared with knowledge about what the market, any local governmental requirements, because we know that there are several, what the buyer wants to use the property for, that's important to know. we need to know about the home itself, and then also asking the other party's agent again, what specifically the other party needs, and knowing this will give you the upper hand, right? So we've prepared for writing this offer. Now it comes down to discussion, right? You have asked a ton of open-ended questions. You've educated your clients on what to expect, as well as what the current market conditions are. And this could be representing the buyer or the seller. You've done these things, and you know what they're willing to walk away over, right? And you also know what the other party wants. So you write the offer if you're representing the buyers, or if you're representing the sellers, you present the offers while explaining all options and scenarios and what could potentially happen, right? So we are discussing this. Then we head over to the clarification of goals. You want to clarify. You already know what their goals are because you've asked these questions right up front, whether it was right at the listing appointment itself, or whether it was when you first met with your buyer clients and started asking them all of those open-ended questions from the beginning. So you know their goals. It's important to clarify what their ultimate goals are. Why would we want to clarify that?
Well, things can change. I mean, as you start asking questions, it prompts them to make some thoughts and evaluations. So they could change what their goals are midstream.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly it. And it's a reiteration, just a prompting, a reminding them that this is our bottom line ultimate goal, right? We see the light at the end of the tunnel. So with that, we want to have that win-win outcome. You're likely, during that clarification process, you're likely going to experience counteroffers, right? Sometimes going back and forth multiple times. Remind your client to look at the bigger picture. It's important not to nickel and dime, and also think about how can we sweeten the pot, so to speak, without feeling like we've lost anything. Again, it's reiterating and showing everyone the win-win outcome, because we want to look at the light at the end of the tunnel, right? So we have this win-win outcome, and then we come to an agreement. Finally, both parties have come to an agreement, right? Contracts have been fully executed. That's exciting. Now we come to that course of action. What's next? What's next with this course of action? Earnest money? Or some areas say hand money, right? The attorney approval. We have to decide on the closing date, go through inspections, right? We have to begin working through all of these contingencies that were agreed upon in the purchase agreement. Anyone else want to add anything to that? Okay. So be the realtor everyone wants to work with. Why is that important?
Well, it means that you've got the reputation that you've built as your brand. People have heard from, in this business, everyone talks, they ask, who they've used. It means that you've done a good job for other people. So you've fairly represented, other people in other transactions.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Keeping a good relationship with other realtors as well.
Absolutely. It's critical, right? There will come a time, if it hasn't already happened to you, when you come across realtors who make you cringe when they write an offer on your listing, or when the client wants to see and ultimately write an offer on one of their listings. It happens. It does, unfortunately. Those agents, they're extremely difficult to work with, between being downright gritty, they're unyielding, out to battle again, or battle instead of working together. They're difficult to communicate with. They're difficult to get a hold of even, extremely argumentative, emotional, easily angered, unprofessional, where they will say things that will shock you, and they aren't even able to keep their own clients in check. With those realtors, what happens?
Probably other realtors don't communicate with them or give them, insights with their client, and they just try to avoid them pretty much.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Ultimately, those type of people, they cause issues, with the entire transaction and ultimately fall throughs, and stress on all parties involved. And that's not any type of situation that you want your clients to experience, nor do you want to experience that, right? You want to be able to have as seamless as a transaction as possible for all parties. Again, it's that win-win mentality where we're educating our clients up front, we're keeping the emotion out of it and in check, right? And when we have the essentially emotional intelligence to be able to keep ourselves in check, then we have the ability to be able to help our clients who tend to be more emotional and involved, because this is one of the biggest transactions of their lives. We can also help keep them on the right path and keeping them in check as well, right? And therein, you end up not having as many deals fall apart because of that. So again, we want to be that realtor that everyone, clients and other realtors, our fellow colleagues, want to work with, and essentially, I can't tell you how many times that I have heard other realtors say, at a multiple offer situation with their seller clients, I'll let you know that this buyer's agent, here's all of the offers presented. This buyer's agent, I know them and they do get the job done. You want to be that agent, right? Or that listing agent.
So what do you, I haven't been in this situation yet, but I'm just thinking forward with, when we are putting our clients' interests first, but we know that the realtor on the other end is what you're describing, and they're gun-ho on this property, right? We can't just steer them away. So what do you have?
Right. We can't. Nope, we can't. We can't bad talk anybody. We can't steer them away. We have to be able to control the situation. So if it's like your buyer client, it's just preparing them and just, ultimately saying, okay, we can do this. I know you're interested in this property. Let's go ahead and I just want to prepare you and forewarn you of possible situations. You're not going to bad talk anybody. You're not going to tell them this agent does this and this agent does that. You're just going to say, okay, and just educating them. I just want to prepare you on what to expect, or what could be possible not to what to expect, but what could be possible outcomes. Does that make sense?
Yes, my kids are loud. Yes.
So this was a fairly quick, I want to make sure I get you guys out of here by 11 o'clock and also give you opportunities to be able to ask questions. So handouts from your session today, you guys received the negotiated elements in the house sale. These are a lot of items, and this isn't everything, but these are most of the items that you typically negotiate with. And then of course, there's also the negotiate for the win-win, there's strategies, and then of course, suggested dialogue that can kind of help you. I definitely recommend practicing your scripts. Nobody likes scripts, but when you practice them more and more, they become more habitual and they don't sound fake. So if you don't like the way certain scripts are written, rewrite your own. But it's imperative and important that you practice them because you need to be able to talk off the cuff, So with that being said, also take a look at the webinar. It's a really great webinar by Alicia, who was just teaching your objections class on negotiating the win-win situation. So she does a great job as well. But with that being said, do you guys have any questions for me? No?
So when you have a situation where you have another real estate agent who is passing on really bizarre demands, how much do you pass? I'm thinking of my own personal situation when I was buying a house 3 years ago. She was telling me that the other agent was wondering why the grass wasn't growing thicker. And she said, and I'm like, "It's not enough sun? I don't know." And she said that the client might have a baby someday. And so we should upgrade our garage door opener. And I, at one point, said, we're going to walk away. You know, she wanted 8 more. This was only an 1,800 square foot house, and she wanted 8 more fire smoke alarms. I'm like, okay. So do you not pass on those requests, or do you, I mean, what do you pass on? Do you use your judgment, or do you just pass everything on?
That's a great question. So yes, we have to do our due diligence for our client. And so we do need to relay, you know, whatever specific requests. My suggestion to you is, number one, having that conversation with your client up front. So this, if this was your buyer client and your buyer client was just what in the what, my assumption is that buyer's agent didn't have the conversation with their buyer client up front and really truly educate them on what to expect, what are realistic requests, and what are requests that need to be done outside after closing by that buyer. So, you know, like for example, the grass, you know, maybe that buyer was asking, why is their grass not so thick and lush and green? Well, you know, they probably don't use chemicals on their lawn. So if that's something that you like, then that's something that you'd be able to take care of after closing, you know? And so you can relay that to your client. And then for the smoke detectors, well, legally, we are only required to have 1 smoke detector per bedroom, you know, or whatever the legal requirements are in your area. So educating your client, and if your client, you know, so Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, if you would prefer to have more smoke detectors in there, you know, you can purchase them at Lowe's or Home Depot for $10.99 or whatever price, and install them after closing. So you have the ability to be able to kind of, we have to, as realtors, reel our clients back in and keep them in check. But we do, if they still insist on it, we do have to relay what they really want. And so if they're asking for more, then I would put that on an addendum and just send that over, because you always want everything in writing, right?
The real estate agent, it was her daughter who was buying the house. She was the agent for her daughter, so.
So that explains more, because they were both emotionally involved. Yeah, okay. Did that answer your question, Susan? Okay. Does anybody have any other questions?
Well, no, Millie, I was just gonna share a quick thing about negotiating. So my cousin is actually trying to buy a condo in Minnesota right now, and is texting me daily with, you know, what do you think of this house? Is this the right? I'm like, I don't know Minnesota. I mean, I can't tell you what the price is, you know, I don't know the neighborhoods, but I did say, if it's anything like the market right now, and you're telling me this is a hot area by the school, like, you know, it's probably going to go quick and it might go above asking. That's just what I know from our market. And he goes, well, what if I tell my agent to offer this? And, you know, he said something, and I said, okay, well, are you okay to walk away? Like, are you okay losing it at that price? And he's like, well, I'm just not going to go higher than that. And I said, okay, but that didn't answer my question. Are you okay losing that? And maybe I was a little bit more direct because he's my little cousin. But I just said to him, you know, I mean, why won't you go 500 more? You know, $500 on a condo that's 90,000. Like, just do it if you want it. And he said, well, I just can't give them the exact price they're asking. And I was just thinking about this class, and it's like, Joe, I mean, it's not like you're winning something. If you want the house, you know, you got to put you got to know what it's worth. And if you want it that bad, and maybe going over, you're not losing if you're getting the house that you really want. And right. I think a lot of times is the way that the real estate agent positions it. You know, if at this point I had a friend who was asking me for advice, they wanted to buy a house in Brecksville in the spring, they went 10 over, and they weren't going to do an appraisal bridge They were like, we'll see what it comes back and we can negotiate again. And I said, well, you're going to probably lose it. And it was a really good friend of mine. And he called me and he's like, I thought you guys were on our side during this. And we got in a huge fight. He's like, I mean, aren't you the one trying to negotiate the lowest price for me? And I said, I'm trying to get you the house that you want at the most fair price. It's not winning or losing. And after he lost 2 houses, he eventually came back to my mom and I and apologized, and was like, you were just actually guiding me because you. And I think a lot of times it's the way that you're wording stuff, and it's scary, especially when it's a friend or a family member, to tell them, what you think is best, when for them, they think you're trying to win the property and get them the lowest price. Sometimes it's not realistic. And I think when you talk about objections, sometimes the hardest ones are trying to handle those from the people that are closest to you, because they can be very harsh. And I wanted to share those stories because, I would assume I would have heard if my cousin Joe got the house. I'm assuming that he didn't, because I didn't hear anything. But, and then my other friends, they just stopped looking because they were just so mad. And, in the back of my mind, I'm like, did I ruin something for them by not explaining what the market really is like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think sometimes the little, personal anecdotes really put this into perspective to just prepare you for it, And then when it's a buyer's market and you have a listing and the seller's like, well, I don't want to give him this, I don't want to give him this, then you have to have that conversation the other way. Well, this could stay on the market for another month and a half. Maybe you're going to have to pay 2 mortgages. Like, sometimes it's not the best price. It's the peace of mind that's going to come from either selling the house or buying the house.
Mm-hmm. Right. Thank you. Yeah.
That's the end of my speech.
No, that's perfect. Those are great stories. And it really is, at what price are you willing to lose this home over?
I always say that when they're like, well, what about this? And I was like, if you lost it at this price, and they're like, yeah, I'd be okay. I can't go over that. And then you're in the clear. It's a great question to ask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's the opposite too, Kate, what you had said, when it's a buyer's market. How much longer are you willing to stay on the market for? How much longer are you willing to stay in this home for? How many more mortgage payments do you want to make on this home?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else have any other questions?
Looks like no.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. And I hope you got a little bit out of this session.